Hey, welcome back. I'm doing a little video today to talk about Nottingham Forest win over Newcastle at the weekend. Now, these videos are kind of small mini podcasts, if you will. They're probably 6 or 7 minutes long. And it's me talking about the latest news this week for Nottingham Forest. And the main talking point, I think you can all imagine, is Nottingham Forest beating Newcastle by 3-1. Massive win at St James's Park as well. And against a side that perhaps isn't in so much form, but against us at St James's Park, and certainly against us since we've returned to the Premier League, have been a very formidable opponent, and one that we haven't beaten or indeed got a point against in the league since returning to the Premier League. So it goes without saying, a fantastic result. I mean, tactically, we looked more assured. In defence, we looked really, really good. Kate was just completely on it. Murillo, brilliant, really, really good. Despite the performance against Bournemouth, he's really stepped it up. And I think everyone's allowed a bad performance every now and then. And even Bournemouth wasn't a horrific performance from Murillo. But Murillo seems to be getting much better game by game. Kate improved massively. And of course, when you've got someone like Bolly absent from the team, it's a massive loss, just that loss of experience, that loss of quality. And I feel that Kate and Murillo did a really good job in his absence. So for me, brilliant result, massive 3 points. Luton winning didn't really do us too many favours. But when you look at the table after that win, you realise just how important that win against Newcastle was. So from a Forest fan perspective, I think everyone can be pretty happy. A very good result. I mean, it's hard not to talk about Chris Wood. I mean, superb. I've got videos on my channel where I say I don't rate him. I've got videos on my channel saying I wouldn't even have him in the squad. I've got videos in my channel saying give him a chance. There's been so many different perspectives I've had on Chris Wood, but the one massive underlying thing that I've always said, and this is about every player, by the way, every single player that walks through the doors, even if I've got that kind of that disliking for them when they join, but perhaps because I've never really rated them or because I don't like them as a player, which is very, very rare, or perhaps just because I don't really know them and I'm a bit cautious, I will always give them a chance. And despite me maybe sometimes saying he's had enough chances, Chris Wood proved me wrong big time yesterday. And indeed against Bournemouth as well. And he's proved me wrong quite a few times this season, actually, even when he's not scored in games, when he's gone out there, put the effort in and really tried to get into good spaces. And Nuno's tactics, Nuno Espirito Santo, his tactics have been really, really beneficial to Chris Wood's form. And you can just tell that Chris Wood is your focal point. There isn't any kind of, unsure, feelings about, okay, who's the focal point in this team? Have we got a striker playing for one? Because we didn't have that against Spurs. And Chris Wood proved that he is your focal point. He's the man that can score you goals. And if you give him good distribution, he will get you a lot of goals. I mean, he almost got a hat-trick against Luton, didn't he, during the draw? If it wasn't for offside, it would have been a rightful offside as well, by the way, but it would have been a hat-trick for him there. So Chris Wood, first Forest player since Sam Surridge to score a hat-trick. Brilliant record. I mean, 7 goals so far this season. You can't really go wrong. Spent a lot of money on him. Yes, £15 million. But when you think about it, striker getting you 10 goals a season, if Chris Wood does get you 10 goals this season, £15 million, it's not an awful investment. Although I still criticise the deal for £15 million and the amount that he's on a week. But then again, if he's going to get you goals and it ends up keeping you up, you say great investment. So important goals from Chris Wood, match-winning goals from Chris Wood, and just really buzzing for him. Really, really happy for him. So I love being proved wrong. I love being proved wrong when it involves Forest because I just love the mentality that those players have had over the last couple of games, and in particular, again, Chris Wood. Anthony Elanga, I think that he had a brilliant game against Newcastle, but at the same time, if I'm going to be uber critical, which I suppose you have to be in a way, and this by no means overshadows the performance of how great he was, but his decision making is something that he can work on, and I think he is working on it, because equally as I say that his decision making is a bit of a weakness, his decision making to get assists for Chris Wood was absolutely superb, and the pass from being pushed over by Isak and also the cross in between the legs of the Newcastle defenders to meet Chris Wood in the penalty area was just seriously top-notch work. So really good performances from them. Gibbs White is captain, again, proving why he's a leader, proving why he's your star man, really, playing that central role. He's here, there and everywhere. He's at right back, he's at left back, he's at centre back, he's in centre mid, he's up front. He's everywhere. And once he starts, maybe when he gets that first goal, or should I say second goal, when he gets that second goal, maybe he'll kick on and get some form and get some more goals as well, because he's racking up the assists and he's creating a lot of chances per game. It's something that we know is a strong point of his game, but it'd be great to see him get some goals as well. And he does have good chances too. So something that, again, another player that can add things to his game, just like Elanga can, and just like Chris Wood is now, by picking up more goals. So Chris Wood on his return, 3 goals to against Newcastle is just fantastic. Overall, I felt really enthused by the performance. I felt a little bit nervous going into the game. The attacking selection was quite worrying, but I think that maybe that's something that's been kind of instilled in Forest fans, because we've not been used to attacking selections. It's been, okay, that's a defensive selection. That's good because we're playing a better team. Whereas you kind of look at teams like Luton, you look at teams like, Everton in many respects, where people say, right, they're in a bad position. They're going to have to just defend their way out of this. But you don't have to do that. And in the Premier League, teams like Luton haven't got as much to lose as us. I get that. But they do go out and go for it every week. And it's proven to work. When Forest played Manchester City, in the second half, they were less defensive and went for it more. And they almost got a point against Manchester City and almost got a goal. Against Arsenal, they almost got a point there, because at the end, they went attacking. Elanga again, crucial in that fast attacking build-up, and Taiwo finishing it off. And in this case, it was Chris Wood. So for me, the really important part about this team and the spine is your players like Morgan Gibbs-White, Elanga and Chris Wood. Because the way Nuno likes to play is that, again, that fast counter-attack and that fast build-up, you don't really get that with some players. And you need someone to win that ball, get it to your quick distributor, like your Gibbs-Whites, who are very skillful on the ball, like your Elangas, who are just so fast on the ball and do have skill, and then can then distribute it to your striker, who can run and finish it off. And we don't really tend to counter-attack with the striker being on the halfway line, making the run and finishing it. It's just not something we do. In fairness to Chris Wood, his pace wouldn't really allow him to do that. But having players like Elanga and Gibbs-White who are ready to make that run and put in a good ball, and Gibbs-White just finds space anywhere. So that's the really important part. And I've always been keen on the idea of, if you're playing a 5 at the back, having those 2 forwards with Elanga a little bit deeper, like we did against Arsenal. But playing the 4-2-3-1, I was a little bit more worried that we'd be found out in midfield a bit with having the only 2 midfielders, even though Gibbs-White does drop deeper like I was hoping he would. Having just 2 midfielders can sometimes be a bit nervy, especially for a team like Forest, where we've not really played the 4-2-3-1 much, and when we've tried, it hasn't really gone too well, and we've been overrun. But yesterday, we were really good. I mean, the selection, the only thing I would have changed is not starting Danilo. I don't think that he's ready for A, first-team football, and B, I don't think he's ready for playing in as a defensive midfielder. I think he has much more attacking attributes, to be honest. But that's up to Nuno, and he's seen him train for the last week, which is still not a long time, but he's seen something that he felt warranted a Danilo start. And also he's got to look at players as well, so he's got to test it out at some point. And it was a good opportunity to do so. And despite Danilo not really starting great, he did grow into the game a bit more. Dominguez coming on was a really good addition. And I don't think Sangare was too bad either, despite what people are saying. I mean, the expectation that's on him is massive. It's more than any player in that team. People don't expect Chris Wood to go and score a hat-trick every week. And when he does, it's the best thing ever. Most fans didn't really expect him to score many goals at all, and he's gone out and scored a hat-trick. So the expectation's far lower. Whereas with someone like Sangare that's coming for £30 million and he's played in the Champions League, the expectation's so much higher. So the benchmark is yet to really be set with him. I've got full faith. He's suspended against United for a double yellow card. Or sorry, should I say not a double yellow card? He's reached the yellow cards threshold within 32 games by Premier League rule. So he's out against United, back for the cup game against Blackpool, I think. So hopefully get to see him back in the lineup. I'd like to see Mangala return to the lineup next week. He can play that 6 role pretty well. And then I'd really have someone like Yates or Dominguez in. I'd rather have Dominguez because although I do like Ryan Yates, by the way, I love Ryan Yates, and I think that his return to the first team hasn't been one that's been has been bad, really. I don't think he was particularly brilliant against Bournemouth. And don't get me wrong, he knows how to get the crowd going, and he will make the odd good tackle, etc. But I think we need someone who's a bit more technical in the midfield, and I think Dominguez really offers that. But that being said, I won't question Nuno because the last two lineups have been pretty good. And if I'm honest, Forest were unlucky to not get a point or three against Bournemouth, and certainly deserved three against Newcastle. So that's my honesty on the lineup that faced Newcastle and a little bit about Bournemouth. Man United's going to be hard. We saw against Aston Villa they can come back. We've seen it against us. They came back and they beat us 3-2 earlier in the season. So Forest have got to be on top focus. They've got to watch out for those quick build-ups by United, particularly with players like Garnacho and Bruno Fernandes, who likes to distribute well. But at the same time, they've got to be ready on set pieces. Forest have got to be ready on set pieces to give it a go because Andre Onana has proved that set pieces wise, he's not been particularly brilliant at saving them. Forest have got to be ready to try and catch them out in the midfield. Man United have been making a lot of mistakes in the midfield as of late and kind of try and exploit United where perhaps they're lacking a bit. Going with the attacking lineup, going with how they started against Newcastle and playing with purpose and playing with real grit, I think is what they'll need against United because, United are a good side despite the recent form. They're a good side and they've caught Forest out every time. We've not got a result against them since returning to the Premier League. So now more than ever, Forest fans will want that result. We've played them 4 times in a season and we still got nothing. So now more than ever, Forest will want to beat Manchester United. And if there's ever a time to do it, you'd say that now would be based on recent form. A good win against Villa, don't get me wrong, but Villa weren't particularly fantastic and haven't really been for a couple of games now. So it's an opportunity. Respect your opponents, but don't fear them, is what I'd say there. And don't respect them too much, because I think that's what we've done with United in the past. We've respected them far too much. But that being said, an opportunity nonetheless. Start as you mean to go on and set the precedent for the rest of the season. Try and get a result against United. 3 would be an absolute brilliant result. A point, maybe. I always want more as a football fan, but you take a point given our recent form because, at the end of the day, we shouldn't get ourselves carried away. This is a win in 15 or 14. So things do still need to improve. And Nuno, despite it being a great win, is still very, new into his environment as Forest head coach. And he's going to face some tough challenges, and I'm by no means suggesting this is remotely a honeymoon period or even new manager bounce, because I think that the tactics and the fight from the players won that game, and Nuno can be credited for that. But at the same time, you should always remember to stay grounded and just wait for future results because, and by all means be optimistic because that gives you a reason to be optimistic, but don't get carried away kind of thing because you'll lose yourself and the expectation becomes too much. And then it's the kind of what can we deem successful? And I think that's been an issue in the past, really. So that's my verdict on it. That's my verdict on it. I think that tactically we've got a no disrespect to Steve Cooper because I love Steve Cooper. And by no means is this any sort of throwing shade because I love Cooper. And any of you who have watched my channel, I've defended Steve Cooper to the hills as much as I can and didn't really want him to leave when the club decided the time was to. But tactically, we look more assured under Nuno. There looks like there's more of a plan, and there's certainly plan A and plan B with Nuno. And it looks like there's more structure. I mean, even watching them train before the games, there's more structure to it, and it's a more regimented system. So I'm very happy with the way that Nuno's managing this football club at the moment, managing the first team, should I say, because he's a head coach. And I'm very happy with the most recent result. And I know for a fact that the Bournemouth game is no reflection on how Nuno's team really started off. So big game against Manchester United this Saturday under the lights at the City Ground. Hopefully see a few of you there. This is my video. I'm going to be doing these weekly. And some of them will be shorter. This was a bit of a longer one, actually, 15 minutes. I can just ramble on forever, can't I? But that's my honest review of the Newcastle game. Nuno, couple of players put in there. We're going to be talking about January recruitment as well in the new year. So do stick around. Transfer window opens very soon. So exciting stuff there. Looking forward to speaking to some of you soon. If I see you at the City Ground on Saturday, I'm looking forward to it. If not, take care. We'll see you next week and hopefully a result against Manchester United. But that's all from me. And that's Jamie Martin talking Forest.